So you've been on a couple of times now. Well,
Yes.
you've been now twice total.
Twice prior to this.
Yes. So instead of asking you what do you think makes something a tale of our time in general, I want to make it a little bit more specific.
Mhm.
We're going to be tackling a Doctor Who episode today.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, what do you think is at least one facet that lends itself to Doctor Who's enduring popularity?
It's reinvention of itself. The Doctor gets recast every few years. A lot of times the show is catered to the actor that they have. Or the Doctor is rather, like the personality and everything. The actor gets to choose their attire, so there's something like unique to. So like David Tennant picked out his costume for the Doctor, and generally they all do in New Who. So like it has a chance to reinvent itself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read or watch for today's episode. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today is my lovely guest, Kim Gordon.
Hello.
Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. Your third time, but like I was saying earlier, it just feels like you've been on here more. I don't know what it is.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you and I talk a lot about media.
Yes.
Outside of
We do.
to everybody out there, shocking. I talk about media a lot in my free time as well.
Would never have guessed it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to say to reintroduce yourself to people here? Anything you want them to know going forward before we go into the episode?
Been in Taiwan for 12 years now, teaching still, and doing vocal recordings and stuff like that.
Yeah. You're
And-
actually, I think, probably one of the most professional recorders that I get on here
Yeah.
in terms of like the amount of time that you do spend recording.
I'm in the studio a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Not our studio.
Nope.
You should be
Well,
in there
here
more.
now.
Yeah.
Lately.
Contrast that to like how long have you been watching Doctor Who?
Oh, God, since 2007-ish. The show restarted in 2005,
Yeah.
but I didn't discover it
It's
until
the first
around
2
then.
years. But the cat's out of the bag a little bit. But today we will be discussing an episode
Yes.
from the Doctor Who series, kind of trying to zoom in on one thing, especially for a show like this that has been going for so long. I think that it would be hard for us to discuss the whole show
That is correct.
without having a dedicated podcast.
I mean,
So to
it's
try
had like a 60th anniversary at this point.
Yeah,
So
it really, like, I'm glad we started with that question because it really is something that has had a dedicated kind of viewership and has been able to evolve its own lore and its own style of storytelling. And as you said, reinvent it for a very long time. Getting us back on track, what episode have you brought for us today?
of all the New Who episodes I've watched, my favorite still stands as season 4, episode Midnight.
Midnight. I'm excited about this because I have only ever seen 2 episodes of Doctor Who in my life. And so I am really excited to find out what happens in this one and if I've even heard of it.
Probably not.
Oh, really?
Probably not, because it's not the one that gets a lot of
Attention, media
attention, and like from
Yeah.
the fan base itself, because every like a lot of
Could we say like it doesn't get a lot of love?
yeah, I feel like it doesn't. It follows a season where they had Blink, which introduced the Weeping Angels.
The only ones that I've
and
seen
that's the one
is
that
Blink.
everybody's like, if you haven't watched Doctor Who before and you want to get your feet wet with it, watch Blink. And I strongly disagree with that, because the Doctor is hardly in that episode.
Yeah, I would say I think I would actually recommend people watch it, but not for that. My whole thing is, if you have never watched Doctor Who, watch Blink, because it's a great standalone. And it's a great standalone horror.
Yeah, so is Midnight.
It's so good. Oh, yes. Wait, maybe I have heard about this one. But that was from season 4.
Yes, this Midnight season 4.
You said that was during the time that it was written by Russel T.
Yes, he was the showrunner as well. Yeah,
Okay.
for the entire run of David Tennant, his first run, and also Chris Eccleston, who played the Ninth Doctor first.
And so usually for a long-running series like this, I like to give a short overview of what the series as a whole is about, and then we'll have you give a summary of what this episode particularly is about. I'm gonna give it my best shot as just kind of like a back of the book overview for Doctor Who. and then we'll have you get into kind of like more of what happens in Midnights. Doctor Who as an overall series is about a time traveling. He's technically an alien.
He is an alien.
That's true.
He's from the planet Gallifrey,
who we refer to as the Doctor. And he comes to Earth, and he often has a companion with him, but not necessarily. And he and his companion kind of help solve problems that pop up around it. Well, they're in Britain, but kind of like around the world
and the universe, yeah,
and the universe,
and all throughout time and space.
Perfect. And so in that way, it's kind of like a Monster of the Week show.
Yes.
For those of you who are unfamiliar, what that means is that like you can watch each episode and just kind of enjoy it as a standalone thing. But there is an overall story that goes across each season. And so that's Doctor Who. That is Doctor Who.
Pretty much.
Sick. Okay.
Yeah. I always just think of it as Sherlock Holmes with a Watson traveling through time and space.
That's so perfect. Issues. Yeah, I should just let you do it.
No, it's okay.
Well, here we are. Would you be able to tell us then what happens in Midnight? And I guess just before that, the important characters in this, since it is across many seasons, and since some people may not have seen it, will be the Doctor, and then his companion at this time?
At this time is Donna Noble.
Okay.
And they've been through it, so he wants to take her on a little vacation.
It's
just like
not
a break.
Go well, I bet.
Never does.
Never does.
Yeah.
So
he takes her to the planet Midnight.
So
yeah.
And I think that, you know what, that's a good place to start.
And yeah, so he just travels to this random planet. It's like a spa planet, basically, but the planet itself is designed so that it's made of like a special kind of diamond, and I can't remember the specific name anymore. Yeah. Basically, if you step outside of the spa area, you will die because of the nature of the sun on that planet and the effect it has on that, right? So it's like already a fallacy in of itself to be there. Like, we're going to put a spa in a really dangerous place because we can.
Planet. Yeah,
basically. So Donna's just like chilled. She's like, cool, I'm good. And the Doctor's like, I don't know how to sit still. Like, he's fine to let her relax, but there's like a tour and he wants to go on this tour. So he's like, I'm going to go. You should come. And she's like, nah. And one of the big things with this particular Doctor is he's fresh off something called the Time War, where he basically lost his whole planet in order to save the universe. So he's, so far as he knows, he's the last survivor of his own people. And he is very volatile. And he should not be left to his own devices. And he hasn't quite learned that for himself yet. And so this episode is partly a test of that. And so he goes, and it's like a tour bus, but it's not a tour bus because it has to travel through this like diamond wasteland type thing,
right? Space bus.
A space bus, basically. And all the windows are sealed tight so they don't obviously get the sunlight in them and stuff and die. Yeah. So they're on this bus and he's just having the time of his life talking to strangers and stuff because he's a very charismatic dude. He's learning things about all the other people, some of them more friendly than others. And eventually the ride comes to like a stop that it's not supposed to stop at. And, and of course, he's the Doctor, so he's like, oh, let me just go figure this out. And that's when chaos starts happening, basically. Like, he goes and checks the drivers. The drivers are fine. The plexiglass or what, it's not actually, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, the windows.
The windows are, they're like, huh. And then one of the drivers is like, what was that? Did you not see that? And the Doctor's like, what? Because he's so curious. He wants to know everything.
Yes.
But they have to close it because you can only be in that light for a certain amount of time, too.
There's a certain amount of time you're allowed to be in the light.
Right. So there's like all these little bits around it that you have to be careful of, right? So they close it and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go check on the other people. And he has a sonic screwdriver that he can use and check stuff. And he goes back out and then boom, something loud happens. And of course the drivers are gone. They're completely gone. So the only thing protecting them is just this door and the windows, and there's nobody there. And the poor stewardess is just like, everything's fine. This is totally normal.
Right. She's like, I have to just go through my lines because otherwise I'm going to start freaking out.
Yep. But then they start hearing noises around the bus again, and they don't know what it is. And the entire time for this whole episode, you never know what it is. But chaos, it's a study on the Doctor, and it's also a study on people. And that's why I like this episode so much, because it's what you call like an elevator episode.
A bottle episode.
A bottle episode, thank you.
It's a bottle episode. One note on that for anybody who doesn't know what that means. Something that's called a bottle episode is an episode that takes place in one very small and contained place, like in a single room. Or you can think of it like a ship in a bottle. And so something like this would be called a bottle episode because they stay in the bus, in the submarine for basically the entire time. And it's about the drama that happens while you're trapped in there.
Yep.
So back to you.
So basically everybody's tension starts heightening, right? He's made friends with a lot of these people, but now they're like, what is going on? We want to get back, but we can't because there's no drivers, right?
Kind of revealing their true colors.
Yeah, and just sort of the ugliness of people when the Doctor is like the biggest advocate of people from Earth. So the tension builds the more that there's knocking and things, and eventually one of the passengers has just a complete meltdown. And he's going just all over the place trying to make sure everybody's okay. And then it all just sort of focuses on this one passenger on the floor at the very front of the what's left of the bus, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes to check on her, and she starts repeating everything he's saying. It's like mirroring him.
Oh, no.
Very slowly. And he's fascinated by this because he's the doctor.
This
He
is like
wants
his
to figure it
curiosity.
out,
He wants to
right.
know what's going on.
And this is his own personal downfall, basically. This is his Achilles heel because he's like, I got to figure this out. So he keeps talking. And the more he talks, the more and the faster and faster it starts repeating him until she starts saying what he's going to say over him.
She starts predicting what he's going to say.
Yep. And to a point where he's like, wait, what?
But I haven't said it yet.
Yeah. But that's not even like the best
That's
part.
so spooky.
It's
love
just
this.
the way that they speak in tandem with each other, and then eventually because it's just like one shot,
Yeah.
right? This whole thing, and finally she starts mirroring his actions.
His actions. It becomes
stuff, right?
physical mirroring.
Yeah, and then he gets stuck. He can no longer talk at a certain point, and everybody else is
like
freaking
frozen.
out.
I would be
They're
freaking
freaking
out,
out, and she imitates them at times too. But as soon as the doctor is like focusing on her, she's like, "That's it." And then they all start freaking out because they don't know what to do. They're like, "We should throw her out." So this shows like the darkness of people,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Us
well,
and
this is a
them, like,
problem,
what's happening?
right? So if we throw her out, we solve the problem, and then the people will come and help us because they know help is on the way at this point.
Yeah.
And he can't do anything. He's frozen in place, and at like a certain point, you can see the doctor's just completely frozen. He can do nothing because it's like you don't actually know what's happening to him either, and that's what makes it scarier.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he's kind of like shut down at
Yes.
this point. So we as the audience do not know, and nobody else in the room knows what's going on.
Nobody knows. And the most chilling thing is she starts talking and he starts saying what she's saying after, and it's delayed. It gets more and more delayed.
Ugh.
She even takes like he has one of his little catchphrases. All the doctors have a little catchphrase.
Yeah.
His is ahat.
Yes.
And she says it at one point, and another passenger recognizes that he said that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just something she heard him say, and she's like, wait, she's taken his voice.
Yeah.
And so they switch gears and like, okay, we don't have to throw the doctor out, we have to throw her out. So but ultimately they need to throw somebody out to stop whatever's happening. That's their logic.
Yeah. That's probably what I would have come to too at this point, as I'd be like, things started going south as soon as she started doing that like I'm just a person freaking out, locked in like a tinderbox. So like I would like for the scary thing to be outside.
Gone. Yeah.
That would be my exact thought process.
Yeah. And ultimately, like one of the saddest things about the episode is he's learned everybody's name on this bus except for the stewardess, and the stewardess is the one who ultimately saves him.
Oh.
And so and she dies saving everybody on the bus from this thing. As you assume, right? Because we don't know how it got in there and if it really got out or what, right?
So how does it wrap up then?
She opens up the door and they both fly out of it because of the nature of the gravity on the planet, right? And then the door automatically shuts. And he gets it back to himself, and he says, what was the stewardess's name? Because names are very important to him.
So the stewardess and the thing fly out at the same time. They're both gone.
And nobody knows her name.
And that's the end.
Sort of. But after that, he goes back to Donna.
She's like, I had a great time. I don't know why you're being so touchy.
Yeah, but she's so good because she recognizes right away that he has been through it.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, well, you get close to somebody, you can read the vibe.
Yes,
right. Like she could tell. Like after she's like, haha. Oh wait. Oh, you're serious. Oh my god. Oh, okay.
But ultimately, I think one of the point of the episodes is not only just like a character study and like almost like a criticism of like people's natural tendency to panic in a dire situation, but why the doctor needs somebody. Because if he'd had his companion, if Donna had been there, it might have gone differently, and it probably would have.
Or it probably would have been figured out faster.
Exactly.
So getting into that then, I'm so excited it was this one. I swear to God, listeners, I really have only heard of 2 episodes, and this is the other one that I've heard about. I am so excited to have talked about this and get more details on it. So I guess what I want to ask you is, what was your first experience with this? Like when did you watch this?
I don't remember specifically when I watched it anymore. I just remember when I watch stuff, a lot of times because I've got ADHD, I have to like multitask.
Yes.
And this is one of the first episodes of season 4 that I stopped everything I was doing and I was just transfixed on it.
It took your full attention.
Full attention, yeah. It's not that I'm not interested in the episodes. It's just I can passively watch and still know what's going on. And this is why I prefer this one to Blink, which is about the Weeping Angels, because the doctor is the main character of the show. This is the doctor's story, and this is all him. as opposed to Blink, that's not like he's in the background and he is helping. He's in it to a degree, but it's Sally Sparrow's story.
Right.
Which is fine. But it's just like, if you want to know something more about the Doctor, I feel like this is a better way of learning something
this
about
perhaps
him.
fits better within like the continuum, the time continuum.
For me personally, yeah. And also it's not written by Stephen Moffat, but that's a whole nother run.
Yeah, something else. Let's get back to what you said about what makes this episode so meaningful to you. And is it the fact that this is a character study? Is it because of the way you feel it critiques our kind of like natural instincts, like that I fully own up to? Like that is exactly what I would do. I would kick the freaky thing out of the off the train. So what makes it so meaningful to you?
The stewardess.
The stewardess. Please tell me more. I would love to know. That poor unsung hero.
Yeah, because we never know her name, but she is ultimately the one who saves the entire day. She keeps everybody grounded. She keeps everybody calm. She does her best not to fall into the whole panic. And ultimately, she saves the Doctor's life. And it means something to him, but he can do nothing to respect that sacrifice. And one of his things is people doing that because he can't do anything to help them.
Well, especially kind of coming off of like you
his own survivor's guilt.
Survivor's guilt. And then that this happens like on the heels of, in this character's like lifespan, a war where they are the only survivor.
Yep.
Right. And clearly want to help other people.
Yes. He would always prefer that it's him that suffers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he can't, and he's physically incapable of doing anything for her, but she also registers that that's his voice that she's stolen, and she makes the big sacrifice to save everybody, and everybody else feels like a jerk because they were panicking. And
they were jerk. They were, but also like you can only hold them so responsible. It wasn't necessarily like nobody's acting on their best instinct.
Yes.
And it takes training to be able to do that.
It does.
Right?
Yes.
And I guess that's also, like, now that you mention it, I think the fact that we don't know her name is kind of good in that it can allow us to, you know, like, she's the best example
she's
that we
the best
could have,
example
right? So we can project ourselves onto her. Is that why you think this should be considered a tale of our time? Why it deserves recognition, specifically this episode? Or do you think that there's even, like, more that we could pull from it?
I think it's an awesome, like, I think it covers a lot of facets of what makes it a really good story of our time, because I love really good dialogue, and that just the entire scene on the bus is just
like
chock
all
full
dialogue,
of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's nice to see the Doctor so calm and chill and think, oh, I'm just going to go see some diamonds. And then, oh my God, everything is awful. And now everything, like, this is a crisis.
Everything is awful.
Yeah. And just the unraveling of everyone, even the Doctor to a point, because he loses his temper too. You don't really get to see that often.
Yeah.
But you do when he's on his own.
I guess maybe that could also be like the greater meaning too, right? Like the importance of having other people around us, and in
for sure,
perhaps the curation of the people you keep around you to that point. Because had like to your point earlier, had Donna, his chosen friend, the one who understands him, been with him, things could have gone really differently. Instead, he's with these other people who, again, on their own, we don't know how heroic they may or may not be.
Right.
But forced together in a panic-inducing situation, like, and influenced by that, driven to perhaps some of their worst instincts.
Yes.
Right? And what a difference that could have made. So, this is so much fun. I'm so glad we get to talk about this. Chills.
I love it. It's one of the ones I rewatched the most.
Yeah,
And
I actually want to go watch it now again.
Let's go. I'll go watch it with you.
This evening. So, well, we're out of time. I know. But on the heels of what we've just said, if you could give this episode of Doctor Who, Midnight, your own one-phrase subtitle, what would it be?
Never go alone.
So good.
It's like the Doctor says, you need a hand to hold.
You need a hand to hold. Well, thank you for joining me. I got to refocus myself. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me, Kim.
Me too.
On Tales of Our Time. And thank you to all of our listeners out there for being here, holding our hands, and joining us here at Radio Taiwan International. I have been your host, Amanda Stevens, and I was joined by my lovely guest and good, curated, good influence friend, Kim Gordon.
Alonzi.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I hope that you all enjoyed learning a little bit more about Doctor Who Midnight.
Never go alone.
Never go alone. A tale of our time. We'll see you next time.